My name is Amit. I'm a filmmaker from New Zealand. History has always been one of my favorite subjects at school, and I've been fascinated by the intersection between arts, culture, and food across the world. So I'm bringing it all together and traveling the historic Portuguese spice route to see it for myself. Before the 16th century, advanced civilizations like India, China, and other Asian countries were decidedly more wealthy than Europe, and Portugal was definitely the backwaters. I want to know how a poor country like Portugal became known as the first colonials and shaped the world as we know it. On the journey, I also want to see if CrossFit has spread across the Portuguese spice route, and also what impact it's having on the local fitness scene. Most of this documentary was filmed before the pandemic hit, so it truly is a memoir of another time. Kochi, the port city in southwest India, has been exporting spices for thousands of years. It also became the first European settlement in India when Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama navigated his way around the Cape of Good Hope at the tip of South Africa to arrive here in 1498. Why did he come here? For the spices. The history of spices is more than 7,000 years old. For centuries, spices traveled over land via Silk Road as well as Arab-controlled maritime routes. The Arab traders became rich by charging taxes on spices that made safe passage to Venice, which in turn became a formidable European power because of that. The Portuguese and the Spanish wanted to break that stranglehold so that they could control their own destinies. The Portuguese were primarily interested in trade, and their overriding concern was controlling the port cities to ensure that Muslim trade ships were built for cargo and speed, not for naval warfare. The Portuguese, on the other hand, had superior naval weapons. To them, the solution was obvious: sink all rival vessels and pummel the coastal trade centers into submission and establish a monopoly on the spice trade. Pepper was once considered so valuable that you could trade it for gold. Pepper and other spices led to the accidental discovery of new worlds, significant improvement in navigation, and the growth of vast empires. Authenticook has come on board and connected me to Joseph, a Kochi native, to show me around. He's a yoga teacher as well as a host with Authenticook, which provides unique home food experiences to travelers.
This is the main bazaar road, the main street of the spice market here. You know, centuries ago, this part was, accumulate all the spices from Kerala and nearby areas. And from here, they stuff it and they pack it in small boxes, and they ship it through the rice boat, open, big, huge boats from here, Matancherry, to Wellington Island. So from there, they had companies where they can pack and stuff this the spices into containers. And from the containers, they move it to the ships, and from there it distribute all around the world. This was the concept having. That's why Matancherry was a bigger part of the trade, godowns, and it was a hub in the South India for spice trade. But now the trade is online, as well as different markets has come. Whoever have the plantation or the warehouse have the capacity to do the stuffing and have the access for the containers to come in, it can directly pack it and direct from the warehouse or the farm to the shipment. The shops now slowly convert into tourist outlets, like selling some of the spices for the people who come for visits. See, starting from the Portuguese, there were a lot of influence in cuisine. So some of the things where they introduce, they share, and we introduce in our menu, and some of our we actually given to them, especially like vindaloo and stew are all European or the Portuguese style of cuisines. and we were using the spices. So they started, introducing spices into their cuisines. So that's how the Vindaloo and the stew earlier was like plain, now become more mid-spicy or spicy. So that added flavor to their cuisine, and it was not only popular in Portugal, but other part of Europe. That's how the message spread very faster. The government, of course, taking initiatives, but the serious initiative is taken by the Spice Board. It's also under the government, a separate body for the spices. And there are some organizations like an NGO which support the spice from giving trainings to the farmers how to farm organically. Now you can see it, even in my store, I sell the organic spices. So it's now becoming much more popular, and the demand, not only the Western tourists looking for the organic, even some average society, middle class is also looking into organic way of farming. And now you could see some of the stores where the organic spices are available in this town of Fort Kochi.
The Portuguese spice route was a closely guarded secret for almost 100 years till a Dutchman, Jan Hagan, published a book in 1595. He spent 5 years as the secretary to the Archbishop of Goa and published the book after returning to his home country of Netherlands. Unlike the Portuguese, Dutch or the English, CrossFit hasn't made it to Kochi. So instead I'm talking to Suchindran from Kerala Kathakali Center about Kalaripayatu, the oldest martial art in existence.
Kalari is one of the oldest martial art in the world, the mother of the martial art. More than 5,000 years history. Around 500 years ago, each village of Maharajas of Kerala, they have army to teach this kind of martial art. Since 7 years, boys and girls must to learning this kind of martial art. Body fitness, self protection and country protection. The meaning of Kalari means a school. Whatever we learning in Kerala, traditionally, music, art, dance, anything, study place traditionally we call for the Kalari. Pite means fighting. So full form of the Kalaripayatu, school of fighting. When you learn for the Kalari, mentally and physically, you can get lot of benefit, and you can help for other people, any kind of attacks coming. You have self-defending and self-controlling, self-confident also coming.
The ancient trade routes were not just a source of transference for spices, but also arts and culture. Long before the Portuguese, it was the Chinese and the Indians who contributed that to the region. Kochi was the epicenter of changes that shaped the world. The Dutch defeated the Portuguese and captured the city in 1663. Spices were too valuable not to fight over. And these conflicts happened elsewhere in Asia, like when the Portuguese captured the strategic port of Malacca in 1511. Viceroy Albuquerque realized that whoever controlled Malacca controlled the maritime trade in Asia, and so began the Portuguese dominance of the city. You must be wondering why spices. Spices are a way to prolong the shelf life of food while enhancing its flavor. And with the control of spices came the riches. The Portuguese were initially well received by Sultan Mahmud Shah, but chaos soon erupted as the rivalry between Islam and Christianity reared its ugly head. A group of Goan Muslims in the Sultan's court convinced him of the grave Portuguese threat, and conflict broke out. After 40 days of fighting, Albuquerque brutally defeated the Sultan on 24th August 1511. Nyonya food and culture is very unique, and Malacca is known for it. Nyonya food was brought here by Peranakans, early descendants of Chinese immigrants who had settled by marrying the local Malay. Melaka still has a small Portuguese settlement with waterfront restaurants. I head across to Restaurant de Lisbon for a quick catch-up with Julie. How big is the Portuguese community here?
I'm not sure, I think around 1,000 over. From the first opening is my brother-in-law who started the business. Then he gave up his business, passed it to my husband. I think we already 18 years in our business. Our recipe come from my mom. The chicken curry double. Then we have like the Portuguese baked fish. Then the fried brinjal. It's all the specialty from my mom. This is like a local Portuguese food we're serving. Like we have the spicy and not spicy. It's not the original Portuguese food. My 3 kids know how to cook. I think the second one is more better than me. She knows more. The Portuguese food, she knows more better than me. It's hope so that my daughter will take the business. Maybe another time when my daughter is tired, maybe her daughter will take over to generation.
Food is what brings people to the city. And it's interesting to see the various kinds of cultures intersecting around food. When you're here, there's only one CrossFit gym in Melaka, and that's CrossFit Melaka.
In university life, we are the teammates for Dragon Boat. So we play Dragon Boat, we're in the same basketball team, and a lot of things we get along together. So like me and YY, and also like some of the clients, we wanted to have a functional place to work out. So we sit down and discuss and think, and we work on it, and we plan, and here we are. Our memberships are like, we're open for all. We have ages from 17 to 60, over 60. So our members are mostly going for help. Not too many athletes, but more on coming with a strong bond. Everyone come here just to relieve the stress, trying to be happy.
It's like most our members is like female. It's like 70 to 80% is like females. So usually people work is like the tourists is like travel, then come for 1 or 2 classes. Just a CrossFit committee.
When we started this 1 year plus ago, we only have like 10 plus members only. So probably some of the classes we have only 1 or 2 members, but we're still conducting. And they're actually new, but once they experience it, they feel the benefits, they tend to introduce their friends in, and mostly are through friends. I think we're doing better here in our box city. So now we are trying, it's sort of like a stabilizing on the box city. So the next one is we're trying to educate the public. So we tend to go into schools, we organize some workshops, so we invite the people from outside to join us, and also to give them this opportunity to get to know more about CrossFit and also functional fitness.
Mostly it's have to educate more of the public is what we are doing. Because in CrossFit we do a lot lifting weight, we do a lot of functional movements, but most of the people cannot accept this kind of trainings. It's a very high intensity, so we have to start or we have to slowly to educate them is what should them do. Yeah, I think definitely people will start to open the CrossFit box 1 by 1, but maybe in the future, 1 or 2 years, I think slowly we come out the few CrossFit box in the Melaka.
Yeah, we're on a plan to expand on our box. That's why because our members are getting more and more, it doesn't really fit. Our next step might be to not only to expand, but also to get in more equipment as in the machines and also the barbells, the weights.
It's great to see Xiao and So continuing their efforts to educate people on CrossFit and its benefits. Melaka was under Chinese Ming Dynasty protection, and the Portuguese conquest of 1511 angered it. They were unwelcome in China when they got there for trade. The Chinese imperial government executed multiple Portuguese diplomatic envoys after torturing them in Guangzhou. By 1606, the Dutch were starting to launch small incursions and skirmishes against the Portuguese so that they could wrestle control of this vital and strategic port city. The Portuguese and the Dutch fought for Melaka, and the Dutch ultimately won in 1641. The collateral damage in all this were the locals who were either killed or subjugated. all for a flavorful meal. The outbreak of the pandemic as I started this journey meant that I had to skip Macau and take a detour to Bangkok, which has a surprising bit of Portuguese history to it. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to make contact with Ayutthaya Kingdom in 1511. Kutigin area has a huge historical significance, as you can see in the form of Santa Cruz Church, as well as the houses around this area. Trading was important, but so was converting the locals to Christianity, and the Portuguese did not succeed in that. So their presence here was very short-lived. What the Portuguese did do was they introduced chili to Thai cooking, and that revolutionized the cuisine. Chilies originally came from South America, and it was the Portuguese who introduced it to Africa as well as Asia, where the plant thrived and evolved each of the cuisines in unique ways. I check in with Bangkok Food Tours to find out about the importance of chili in Thai cuisine.
So the chili is really important in the Thai cuisine because of if without chili, it means it's like our food is no taste. The chili is really good for health as well. If you don't add the chili in your food, I don't know how to say about that. It's like a food not delicious, it no any taste. Yeah. I can eat the papaya salad many times a day. Yeah, and I like more spicy in the papaya salad as well because of make me good feel after it.
Besides papaya salad, Tukta also gets me to taste other diverse and delicious Thai cuisine around the historic Bangarak area. It's hard to imagine what food of the region would be without the chilies that the Portuguese introduced. It's a fascinating thought for sure. With my belly full, I head across the city to one of the 6 CrossFit boxes in Bangkok. The number of CrossFit boxes in Bangkok has grown since the last time I was here. I'm here at CrossFit Ten500, one of the oldest boxes in Bangkok, to talk to Nat.
It's been a little bit over 7 years. The journey has been fun and very rewarding, just to see how the sport has grown. I'd say we're 50% expats, 50% local people. Definitely more Thai people doing CrossFit now than, say, 3 to 4 years ago. More and more Thai people know about the sport because of many factors, more gyms opening up, and the sport has grown globally. Thai members at our gym, if they like their experience at our gym, they're going to tell their friends who are most likely going to be Thai as well. If it keeps going like that, it just going to keep bringing more and more people, whereas in this business is not as easy as it was a long time ago. Everything has to go right and you actually have to put in work. A lot of people have, I guess, wrong ideas of what we do, of what CrossFit is, and trying to change your minds of what we actually do can be challenging sometimes. Bangkok has something like 8 million people, and there are now 6 or 7 boxes, so the ratio is nowhere near the right ratio. So absolutely, I think a lot more room. The new CrossFit box opening up, that means 2 things. One is more competition. There's a worry of that, of course, but second, in the long run, it's actually better for the business overall, because then more people will know about the sport, more people will want to do more CrossFit, and in the end, we get more business.
Akil, the national champion of Pakistan, works out at CrossFit Ten500, so I catch up with him as well.
In my heart, I feel very proud to represent my country. I know that there are very good athletes. I'm very new to this, but I have big hopes that I can show that I'm from this country and I'm doing this for my country. Yes, my training has changed a lot. It's honestly very difficult for me to maintain what I'm doing. And each day it makes me more scared of what my coach is making for me. But I'm very proud of it that I'm doing that. And last year, I tried to do, but I couldn't qualify. This time when I qualified, I've seen a big change in Pakistan. I've seen many people. They are contacting me and asking me about this game. So it shows that the people now are aware of this kind of game. In my own community, I've seen many are coming to join CrossFit because of me. The aim for CrossFit Games Actually, to be there is one of my goals, and I achieved it. Actually, it makes you very passionate for anything you do. It gives you passion to work harder, not only in CrossFit, in anything you are doing. It gives you a reason to do something. It makes you challenge people in a positive way.
That's an inspiring and refreshing attitude to spread around. Mick is a dear friend of mine and he's an amazingly talented photographer. We are catching up for some food and talk about CrossFit.
I started in 2013, but I start from like the fun photography things for my box in Bangkok, helping my friends Nathan, who was a coach, and he is one of my best friends. And Nathan connected me with Jennifer Tan, was a media director for Asia Regional in 2014. So that's how it started. We know that CrossFit in Asia, it's very small compared to the rest of the world. We have a lot of CrossFit events in Asia, but you're gonna see similar faces, right? You go to a different country, to a different city, but you see the same group of people. I think that's make the community, it's tighter, it's stronger. So I think for CrossFit to grow in Asia, especially in Thailand, it's for sure we need local media support. I think one of the obstacle is most of the CrossFit content are in English. It's become a barrier for Thai to understand what the CrossFit really is, what's good for their health and their fitness. So if we can get more educated, there are gonna be a lot of people get interested and would like to try.
The other thing we've got to try is this famous pork soup that everyone lines up for.
This is the early night. Sometimes you have to wait in line longer than that. So yeah, the soup is very tasty and fresh ingredient. It's been here forever. Like every Thai, when it comes to Chinatown, they have to come to this place. Try it.
It was delicious and worth the hype. I call it a night as I've got one more stop in Bangkok. ThongLor CrossFit is one of the newer boxes in Bangkok, and I'm here to talk to Chanbi, the owner.
ความแตกต่างเหรอรู้สึกอยากจะสร้างให้เป็นคอมมูนิตี้ที่มันอบอุ่นเหมือนมาเล่นกับเพื่อนเราเปิดบ้านให้เพื่อนมาออกกำลังกายด้วยกันรู้สึกสนุกส่วนมากจะเป็นลูกค้าหน้าใหม่ที่อยู่ใกล้ๆที่อยู่ใกล้ๆยิมที่เดินทางสะดวกลูกค้าจากยิมอื่นก็มีบ้างเพราะว่าคือผมเล่นมาหลายๆที่เราก็รู้จักเพื่อนไม่ได้แต่ก็ทุกคนก็ได้มีการฝึกซ้อมพัฒนาร่างกายศักยภาพไปพร้อมๆกันได้เล่นไปด้วยกันแข่งกันแต่ก็ยังเป็นเพื่อนกัน Inspiration มาจากความชอบ Passion ล้วนๆเลยชอบมาจากเริ่มแรกเราเป็นคนเล่นหลังจากนั้นเราก็รู้สึกว่ากีฬาเนี้ยมันชอบเล่นแล้วสนุกมันไม่เหมือนกีฬาประเภทอื่นเราไม่ได้มาหวังกำไรเพราะผมก็มีธุรกิจหลักอยู่อันนี้เกิดจากความชอบล้วนๆเราก็ทำมันให้มันเป็นมาออกกำลังกายแล้วก็สนุกก็สามารถเปิดเพิ่มได้นะเพราะว่าอย่างคนก็ยังมีลูกค้าที่สนใจการเล่นกีฬาคอร์สฟิตนี้อยู่แต่การเล่นคอร์สฟิตเนี่ยมันเป็นกีฬาที่ค่อนข้างหนักก็บางทีไปเล่นตามตึกตามอะไรเงี้ยก็อาจจะรบกวนคนอื่นมันก็จะหาที่ยากนิดนึงแต่ก็คิดว่ายังสามารถเปิดได้อยู่
It feels like there's room for more CrossFit gyms in Bangkok. I'm confident that CrossFit here is not going to go the same way as the Portuguese in the Siem kingdom. Spices came to Cambodia via Thailand and also via the Tonle Sap waterways. I'm meeting up with Jared from Siem Reap Food Tours to understand more about Siem Reap and the Khmer cuisine.
Spices are central to Cambodian cuisine, and most of them came from southern India. Of course, the spices came along the routes that traders came, and ideas of government came along these same routes, religion came along these same routes. Changes in cuisine come through the hardest of times has been a major method of collecting herbs and vegetables, since before agriculture. But during the Pol Pot era, where food was harder to come by, people found that foraging became more and more important. So they were finding more and different varieties of herbs and vegetables in the forest, in the fields, trying to find new things they could eat. And that is carried over into today. Both the old methods and the new methods at that time were lost during the Pol Pot regime. So now the young chefs are trying out new, interesting methods. Some are working, some are not, but I definitely see a lot of growth in the future for Khmer cuisine. Now, whether or not that goes beyond the borders of Cambodia is yet to be seen. After 500 years of being under the thumb of someone, Cambodians have always been a little shy to share their food with the world. Whether now during this time of peace they are ready to do so, we will see.
For me, Siem Reap has always been about Cuisine Wat Damnak. It was one of the top 50 restaurants in Asia for multiple years. And I'm talking to Johannes, the mastermind behind it. He really showcases Cambodian food using his French culinary techniques.
I came here as a volunteer almost 17 years ago. And when I was working as a volunteer, the NGO that hired me asked me to produce a cookbook as a fundraising for the project. And at the time it made sense, since it didn't really exist, it made sense to do a Cambodian cookbook. So I had to start researching about it, and because of that book, then I got hired as a Cambodian chef in a big hotel after my volunteership. So I kind of get specialized into it. Of course, being a restaurant and being in Cambodia, we also base our cuisine on Cambodian combination and therefore Cambodian food. But really the idea originally is to showcase the beauty and the variety of the products available in this country. We generally have good reaction from the local people who come here because we use a lot of indigenous products, things that people have eaten before, have heard of eaten as kids and don't eat anymore. And they're very, very surprised to come and try that here. The best comment I had from Cambodian customer is that it does not look like Cambodian food, but it tastes like Cambodian food. And I think that's that works really well for me. That's what I'm trying to do. I do love working with spices. I am from a family of people who traveled. In France, spices are extremely secondary into food. People don't really necessarily pay attention to the quality of spices, while here, obviously, it's the core of most dishes. When Lokavor in Indonesia ended up being the first restaurant in Indonesia on the list, he made the main title in national newspaper, and they get accolades from the Indonesian government. When we made it to the list, nobody heard about it here. Nobody had any clue. We kept a low profile as well because the restaurant scene is pretty small, and we didn't really want to brag about it. Definitely, I think when this happened, young Cambodian chefs saw the potential in their own cuisine, and especially in their products. And it always comes back to the products. Young Cambodian chefs saw that it was possible to cook world-class food with fish from the lake, to cook world-class food with vegetable grown in Siem Reap. So I think that was really good. I think that makes a difference.
I've never ventured past Siem Reap because of Cuisine Wat Damnak. But this time, I'm breaking that cycle by heading to Phnom Penh to visit CrossFit Amatak, the country's only CrossFit box.
I used to live in Bangkok. I used to coach there for about 4 years. But then I got an offer here in Phnom Penh. It's been, 2 years already? Cambodian CrossFit right now is on the rise. However, the level of fitness in general is pretty low. And if you look to Thailand, I think over there, the level is a bit higher in a skill set, I want to say. Before, I know for a fact there's expat bubble, expat cycle. every 2 years, people coming and leaving. I think right now we having more and more locals, it's more sustainable. And our plan is to bring even more local players into the box. Corbett, as the owner, has a specific vision on how he wants to do things. And I know for a fact that his biggest intention is to change people's lives. And his vision aligns with my vision. And I think that's why CrossFit Amatak is so successful.
We don't consider ourselves like a competition-focused gym. We are a community-focused first, a teaching gym, and then everything else sort of is secondary to that, because our demographic are more average folks, and a lot of Cambodians don't have a lot of strong athletic backgrounds. People come for the fitness, they stay for the community, they stay because that's where their friends are. My title is factory director, and I, with several other people, we led on formulating the initial concept for this, and our objective here was to create a space that would inspire inspiration and creativity. Our goal here, which we're still working towards, I wouldn't say that we've reached it, is to try to connect people from different parts together and to create that sort of larger community and exposure to diverse backgrounds, diverse people, different income levels, different ethnicities, different nationalities and stuff. So those are areas that definitely we've been fortunate enough at Amatak to have, and we're trying to bring over to here. So I think that's one of the direct parallels. This city easily, we're about 2.7 million. We could easily be supporting 3 to 5 or 6 different boxes. For all of us who have gotten exposed to CrossFit, we all had that first experience somewhere where we walked in or somebody told us about it and we're like, oh my God, what is this? And that sort of first reaction, right? Well, right now, with us being really sort of the only one, there's not a high awareness. And I think once that awareness grows, we'll start to see more things.
Back in the day, I was working in the cafes, and I started to do my first class in the boot camp class. Then after that, my boss, which is Corbett, he looked at me my performance good. Also he want to be having local coach. So he want me to try it first as assistant coach. So I started to do assistant coach about almost a year. Then after that, I go get my level 1 and then starting to do coaching CrossFit. My hometown is that province. Every time that I go into my home, I need to wearing a long sleeve pants, something like that to cover my muscle. So if they saw that, they most what happened to her leg? She having a lot of muscle with her body. Most of the lady in Cambodia, they don't want to be getting big or too much muscle with the wide shoulder, big thighs. And now I can see many lady in Cambodia, they starting to doing fitness, even though it is boot camp class or CrossFit, but it's still good. So I hope that will be getting a big communication on that.
It's a life-changing for me. I changed my job after I started CrossFit. So Corbett, which is the CrossFit box owner, he decided to recruit me for his project, the Creative Hub. And then it gave me the opportunity to set up my own business, which is trampoline park inside the Creative Hub that I work for him. Aside from the career, I also met a lot of nice people and I have a lot of good friends, and I found the love of my life from CrossFit. And also it changed my confidence. So I feel before I'm a shy Cambodian guy, right? So right now I have more confidence. In a million years, I would never dream that I'm gonna make it out there and join the CrossFit game and see all those professional athletes there. For me to go out there, it's not about me. It's about CrossFit community in Cambodia, because the reason that I was there because of them. They contribute the money. I get a lot of support and encouraged to go out there and compete on the CrossFit floor. So right now, people start to understand, especially local people, they start to understand what is CrossFit. As a real example, Amatak started with me as the only one Cambodian guy. And right now we have a lot. Hopefully in the future there would be more CrossFit boxes and it become a fitness choice for people living in Cambodia.
With the national champions highlighting the sport, it definitely creates a higher profile for the fitness regime among the local population. After a farewell dinner with Ivan and Mary, I make my way back to Siem Reap. No trip to Cambodia is complete without a visit to Angkor Wat. to experience the beautiful remnants of an ancient civilization. The temples here are a reminder of the country's rich cultural heritage and the Indian influence on arts, religion, and food. Further evidence of such transference lies in the south in Sri Lanka. The Portuguese arrival in Sri Lanka was a mistake. Their ships got blown off course and they landed in Colombo in 1505. They saw that the island was rich in spices and they decided to add it to their growing empire so they could fortify their trade routes. Ray, one of my old film school students, is a Sri Lankan filmmaker and a karate practitioner. He is hosting me on my stay here in Colombo. Our first stop is an Angampora center right here in Colombo.
When I was learning how to make films, when I was a teenager, when we were playing with our camcorders, the only thing we used to do is shoot fight scenes. That's how it started. But when I started studying film, I drifted away from that, and recently I got back into it. So I produced a short film called The Seer, starring Joey Ansa. He was in Born Ultimatum. He trained Matt Damon, so he was the lead in my short film, so that's how I started it. And we're doing a feature film this year. That will be like a pure martial arts kind of movie. It will be one of the first in Sri Lanka. I'm a first degree black belt in Taekwondo, and a brown belt in Shotokan, and a black belt in Kudo, which I'm practicing now. I first learned about Angam because of a TV show that I had in the 90s, a local TV show. Being in Sri Lanka, I've never really got the chance to try it out. So I'm really happy to try it out today.
Angampora is very similar to Kalaripayatu, and we are going to find out more.
In Kalaripayatu, there are three styles, Southern, Madhya and Uttara style. Angampora is more similar to Southern style, that means Tekkan Kalari. There are a lot of Angampora training centers in Sri Lanka, but only very few training centers doing real art. Some of them are doing mixing with karate, mixing with wushu, and mixing with other modern martial arts. And they give very less attention to the technical stuff. So this organization, our organization, that means Angampora Estima, we mainly focus on techniques and spreading the scientific, practical and logical art form of Angampora. In Sri Lanka, we got nearly 400 students in all our centers, and in Europe, we got nearly 50 students. Most of them are coming for fitness, some of them are coming for fighting purposes, and some of them are coming because they want to keep live this traditional art.
I must say that I'm quite impressed when it comes to the practicality of the art. As they explained to me, it's not a self-defense art. It's actually a combat art that was used during the wars back in ancient Sri Lanka. So it made a lot of sense when I was trying out with the guru. I would like to utilize this for the movie.
There's 3 CrossFit gyms in the country, and 2 of them are in Colombo. I'm here to talk to the owners of CrossFit Ceylon and see what's happening with the CrossFit scene here.
2014, my husband and I go to Singapore. We stop by a box there, do our first intro workout. Can't remember exactly what it was, and just being completely floored after the workout. We started coming back to a gym back in Sri Lanka, a global gym, and we started doing CrossFit-style workouts. As just a result of doing CrossFit, I realized there were a lot of things that changed in me. It was not just I was getting a good workout, but I think there was a shift mentally as to just learning in life, right? When things get hard, how do you push on? And I think there were attributes of CrossFit that kind of taught me that I could take outside the gym. And that's when essentially we decided, you know what, this is something that's fantastic. We really enjoyed it. And we knew that there would be a sizable number of people in Sri Lanka that would really enjoy this new type of workout?
We realized even before we opened the box that CrossFit wasn't for everybody. We knew that it was not a mass fitness movement, but then for the people that it did appeal to, they would be hooked for life. CrossFit is not the cheapest source of fitness available for a lot of people. If you look at it from our perspective, we had to get quite a large space in the heart of Colombo. We had to send our trainers and our coaches to foreign countries to get their level 1. All factors like that end up with the membership price being a little bit more expensive at a CrossFit box than at, let's say, a normal Globo gym. On the surface, that could be seen as a limiting factor. But what we're finding is that once people come in, they go through our system, they go through our foundations, they meet our coaches, they see our equipment, the concerns on price seem to kind of fly out the window because they understand the value that they're getting from coming to a CrossFit box.
We played around with the idea of getting coaches from overseas, but then I figured in order to build everything here, you need to build the team of coaches locally. Eventually, these coaches will leave and open their own box, and then the ecosystem is going to grow. Because the whole idea is for the ecosystem to grow as big as possible, and everyone's started from scratch. All the coaches have started from scratch. I started from scratch. We had to learn everything from scratch. We didn't have the high-level coaches giving us internships or anything. We were the ones who went online, learned, went to the L1, went to the L2, and learned everything. I think it's a good process to go through. It's a very organic process.
It's pretty easy for people to rent a space and order some equipment from Rogue. It's a whole other thing to have the best coaches in the country and have these coaches kind of aligned with the ethos of our brand, of our business, and keeping that at the forefront of the member experience, I think is the key for member retention.
I would say 98% of our memberships are local Sri Lankans. And I think that's something that shocked us as well. We started running fundamentals program at the very beginning just to pipe newbies through the system, to get them confident in what the CrossFit foundational movements were. And then we just saw this massive take-up from locals in the next 3 to 4 months. And I think it completely spread from word of mouth. At first we thought, predominantly it would be men. But what we've seen change over the last year is that we have a lot more women joining the membership base. So sometimes you might even see a class full of just ladies, and that's very popular for our burn class that we have at 8:30 in the mornings.
It's great to see the locals responding to the high coaching standards set by CrossFit Ceylon, and it bodes well for the future of CrossFit in the country. Cinnamon was one of the spices that the Portuguese were after. I'm lucky that Harry and his son Fergus have opened up their plantation for me to see. Mr. Ajit is showing me around.
Plantation is about 100 years, but Harit's father has purchased it in 1948. And since then, it has been managed by Harit. The total extent is 55 acres, of which 40 is in pure cinnamon. Well, it's labor intensive, and the labor is the biggest problem in this area. The younger generation, I don't think they are willing to come in and start manual work, So that's one reason where you are handicapped where labor is concerned. The seasons now are changing in Sri Lanka. Unlike those days, olden days, we don't get the rains at the correct times. So cultivation we have to depend on the rains which are coming in. And when it rains until it floods. And when it dries up, again, it's completely the other way about. So you're very, very tactful when you're doing the cultivation in any part of this country.
Portuguese made huge profits from cinnamon during their time here. Spices are a key component of Sri Lankan cuisine, and you've got to taste the various kinds of dishes to understand why empires fought for it.
Baila it's a style of music that was influenced by the Portuguese. These songs are catchy, they're fast, so people dance to these songs. And so they're mainly the last few songs that are played at any occasion. All right, I'm ready.
The Portuguese period was marked by hardship and popular hostility against them, as they didn't understand traditional Sinhalese social and economic structures. The Buddhist majority disliked the Portuguese occupation because of their Christian missionary campaigns. For more than 50 years, the Portuguese unsuccessfully tried to win over the last free kingdom of Kandy. As with the rest of the region, their rivals, the Dutch, sought to oust the Portuguese from the Indian subcontinent so that they could control the lucrative spice trade. With the local unrest, they saw an opportunity to undermine the Portuguese in Sri Lanka.
Take it on, Sara. This is Tamil.
The war over spices was intense. The Dutch tied up with the local rulers to kick out the Portuguese. The move was not all benevolent, because ultimately the Dutch owned whatever the Portuguese had. But by then, the Portuguese had already left their mark on Sri Lanka and its history. Under the House of Aves, the impoverished Kingdom of Portugal became a hugely dominant force in the Indian Ocean region. The profits from the trade were enormous, and it stayed so throughout the 16th century. Half of Portugal's state revenue came from West African gold and Indian pepper and other spices. While researching spices and food in Lisbon, I came across a couple of articles by Celia, an award-winning journalist, cookbook author, and a host with Culinary Backstreets. And I reached out to her. What's the current makeup of the Portuguese society like?
Very eclectic. The number one community in Portugal are the Brazilians, and the second used to be the Cape Verdean. But with the events in Ukraine, now the second is the Ukrainian community. It used to be the fourth. There's also a lot of people from the former colonies, from Angola, from Mozambique, from Guinea-Bissau, from São Tomé, and of course from Goa. Goa was one of the first communities here in Lisbon. When Goa, Damão, and Diu became part of India, in 1961, a lot of people moved to Lisbon. Other people moved to Mozambique and then returned later after 1975 when Mozambique was independent. According to the official numbers, it's estimated that 30,000 people from India are now mostly in Lisbon, but also in other parts of the country, in the south, in Alentejo. But the same numbers also estimate that a total of 100,000 people are part of this Indian diaspora that includes many Goan people that are Portuguese. So that's a much bigger number and makes much more sense. Even our current Prime Minister, António Costa, his parents were from Goa, so there's a lot of Goan and Indian presence in the city of Lisbon and in Portugal in general. You can see effects of that, not just in politics, but also in music and in food. And food-wise, we have the love for things that connect us with the past, either the chamuças or the samosas or the vindalho, but also the cachupa from Cape Verde or the chocolate and coffee from São Tomé. There's many layers of influence. Some are a bit under, and you have to go deeper to find them. Others are more present in the city, like the custard tarts. They wouldn't be the same without cinnamon, because when we have a custard tart, the famous pastel de nata, we always put cinnamon on top. And some bakeries actually bake the custard with a cinnamon stick to give more flavor. Cinnamon is probably the most used and the most popular spice in Portugal. We also love the hot chili peppers that the Portuguese navigators introduced originally from Brazil, in India and in Sri Lanka, and then in Malaysia, Thailand, the small hot chili peppers. The older generations are not very adventurous, A bit like happens in Spain or Italy, they like to have their traditional meals, their traditional food. They're not very adventurous. But younger generations are very eager to try lots of different flavors. They're eager to mix Portuguese flavors with ingredients from other cuisines. And there's more now, more than ever, there's more restaurants from other cuisines in Lisbon. So I would say that is changing a lot, and younger generations are getting more and more adventures.
The Portuguese monopoly on the spice trade was not a long one, but it was significant as it was responsible for a lot of the colonial history that followed across the globe. One aspect of the Portuguese colonial rule that you can still see today is Fado, a type of Portuguese singing renowned for its expressive and melancholic nature. The songs are usually about hard realities of daily life, balancing both resignation and hopefulness. I'm catching up with Cristiana, a Fado singer, to know more about it.
We don't know exactly when Fado started, okay? But we think Fado was born in 19th century in Brazil, and it was like a sensual dance, and people shocked with the body, and then people dance Fado. However, Fado is nothing sensual. You will see that people close their eyes, and we try to understand the soul, the heart of Fado singer. And after the sailormen brought to Lisbon to the three principal neighborhoods, Bairro Alto, Alfama, and Mouraria, Fado was related with the poor classes, the sailormen's prostitution. And for example, our first Fado singer was Maria Severa and was born in 1820 in Mouraria. And she was prostitute and sang Fado, okay, it's Fado. Here it's a magical place where everyone can sing, and sometimes it's not a professional, sometimes it's like a person that really loves Fado, and you can feel it. We can see actually young people and we can see old people singing Fado. But for example, the Fado singer today is young, and I think it's because of that. Fado was considered 2011 by UNESCO immaterial heritage. It was important for us. People now talk more about Fado.
Some hard realities hit CrossFit with the global backlash against Greg Glassman's comments in the midst of the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement. Before all this transpired, CrossFit was seeing consistent growth in Portugal. I'm catching up with Phil from CrossFit Caravelas to find out what's happened since the pandemic hit.
I'm Brazilian, and for us it's a big dream. I open a CrossFit. In Portugal, this is a big challenge because for us it's the other country, other culture, but the Portuguese people is amazing. The beginning is very difficult, but now I understand how do you feel in the movements, how do you explain for these guys what the people need. It's most important for us. It's funny because I have a client in Brazil. He came to Europe to watch Barcelona and PSG. When he returned to Brazil, said to me, we need to open a business in Europe. Make a plan for me, let me see. And I and Anna came in 2018 to watch the other box, the city, the spaces. And when I present the project for him, for me, it's not interesting. But for me, it's amazing. It's more safety than Brazil. Brazil is complicated at this moment because the economical and social issues. And for us, it's a big challenge. You move with your family, we have $2. For us, it's especially difficult moment because we opened in February of 2020 and we closed in March because the first lockdown. And we opened just in June. It's a long period. You spend a lot of money for building a business, building a good space, and we open your doors. You are mandatory to close it because of the pandemic. And after that, when we reopened in June with this proposal, training your wellness, the people understand why I offer this one. I have orders and we adapted the exercise. Oh, not make it 120, make 60. Make it you can do. And this proposal is very, very interesting. I have proud about my project, about the CrossFit Caravelas. It's a barbell tower. I have 50% Portuguese and the others is foreign. Normally we use the Portuguese because the language of Portugal is Portuguese and my language is Portuguese, I'm Brazilian. But when I see the guys don't understand, I speak in English. Okay, I have a poor English, but I and Anna learn English and communicate with these guys. And I explain in English and the guys understand. Greg Asma influence is zero. The CrossFit is much bigger than one person, or David Castro or others. We need training and develop physical and mental health. I don't have a competition spirit. It's not our propose. Our propose is training your wellness. Drink a beer, take a coffee, okay, talk, let's go to the beach together, train together. For us, it's the most important. And the relation with the other box is this one. You see today, have a owner of the other box train with us because it's a friend. We making the difficult moment. Anna have had COVID and I have been in Brazil and it's impossible. I need lock. And Vasco helped me for, okay, don't worry. I do your classes. And for me, it's fantastic when you feeling the real sense of community, not in your box, but in Portugal.
There is now a hopefulness in CrossFit, as it survived its existential crisis with a change of ownership. It's now focusing on international growth, and hopefully that translates to more Portuguese joining the ranks. History is complex, and there's a big chunk that I haven't been able to cover because of the pandemic. The sun set on the longest-running empire when the Portuguese handed Macau back to China in 1999. The beginning of the end, though, didn't happen in Asia, but somewhere much closer to home. The Portuguese were crushed by the Moors at the Battle of Three Kings in 1578. That bankrupted the Portuguese, and it opened the door for their rivals, the Dutch, Spanish, British, and the French to take over the trade routes in Asia and in the New World. That, though, is a story for another day.